What business? That was... I was like, wait, shit, I need to come up with one that from the fucking show. And I don't think they even say it in the show. I think it's only in the book.
To be fair, I was just confused as to where I'm looking at because I am used to watching us on OBS and now I am on Zoom. And I'm like, wait, where am I looking?
I look over here because I thought if I look over here, I'm suddenly not paying attention to you there because I've got two monitors.
It's weird. It confuses my mind to say it like that. I don't know what happened. But
no, I feel like this whole intro could have gone way better than it did.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, this is a flawless podcast, and we know exactly what we're doing.
Do you want to introduce this?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Welcome to All the Films We Judged Before. I'm Katie, and that over there is the Lily Kay.
You didn't say any.
No, I've decided to put the emphasis on the Lily Kay because there's no other. It's just you.
I'm gonna blush. I have so much makeup on that you wouldn't see it, but I'm gonna blush. And that's the Katie. I don't know if you checked your messages, but I sent you a very beautiful one.
I did see that, and then I meant to. It was one of those things. When I look at messages first thing in the morning, I'm like, I'm not going to reply to that just yet because I'm still waking up, and then I forget about them. But I did see it, and it was very sweet. It made me very happy.
You're my purple. At least that's what the video was. And you guys will understand. I will post it. I don't know. We will do something.
I'm sure.
But my usual line. How silly. Oh, yeah. I am not Troy Baker. I am Troy Faker. And now I am looking straight into the camera. Now I'm confused. Where am I looking, Katie?
I tend to look at the Zoom call. That's where I go to.
Okay.
So that I can look at you and then occasionally look at myself.
We're gonna work this out, guys. We are professionals after all.
Sorry, I just got my friends and I did a High School Musical marathon like not that long ago, maybe like 4 or 5 days ago now. So you said work this out, and I'm like singing High School Musical to myself.
Fair deal.
I don't obviously we can't because YouTube will copyright strike us, but just know
even
that
if we sing it.
Well, I also don't want to have to sing.
Fair. I'm not gonna ask what have you been watching lately because for the I don't know, it's our third time or fourth time that we are actually reviewing stuff.
Yes,
because we are after all a movie and TV show podcast.
Yeah,
so, why not? But there are actually two things that we need to talk about. One of them being I think we should start with that first.
We should put that out of the way so that
yes.
I can gush about other things.
Yeah, you can definitely gush about other things, but we have to gush over the fact that fucking the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or as we now know them, Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
I found it interesting that they decided to keep him as the Winter Soldier and not like change him to White Wolf.
I think it's because we are more used to it, and maybe he's just not fully become the White Wolf yet. We'll see.
True.
We'll see. But what did you think?
I mean, I loved all of it. Really, I did. It's one of those like. I've said this to Thinneth because he messages me every week after the episode and we talk about it a little bit. I liked it more than WandaVision. Like decidedly more. And this apparently is not the general consensus. There are a lot of people that whose like opinion on like film and TV stuff that I respect quite a lot who did not like the show, who found it to be quite messy and a bit all over the place and whatnot. And I was like, I feel like we're watching different shows. I don't think it was perfect, but I don't think most Marvel properties are perfect, but I thought it was very good and not as messy as people were kind of making it out to be. So I don't know. It was a weird thing. I kind of afterwards saw a couple of people be like, "Oh, that was a bit disappointing." I was like, "What part of it?" Like, I think there were some things they could have played out maybe a little bit more, or decided not to put in the first place, because there were things that kind of got tied up very quickly, or just like didn't go particularly deep into, such as Sharon, which I know you're not huge on.
Nope.
Especially considering the marketing they did for that, they kind of made it seem like Sharon was going to be more important to the wider plot. Like, she's clearly going to have something to do later on. Like, they've set her up. But,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I thought, oh, she's not in this very
To be fair, I saw the critiques where they were like, "Oh, Carly is not as great of a villain. She wasn't a villain, first of all. So your review already failed on many levels."
I'd say she's an antagonist.
Yes.
I think that's a better word for her.
Yes. She's not a villain, guys.
Not
so
a villain.
please stop.
I'm a bit disappointed that John Walker got so kind of let off.
I'm not, because if you think about the previous episode, I mean, he's basically still fired, and
but like no, I mean more because I wanted to see him go full evil. No, because I feel like that would have been like, I was like, they're setting him up to be this real big bad guy, and then he wasn't, and I was a bit, oh.
Did they though?
A little bit. He killed a man.
He did. I'm not gonna argue with that. It was disgusting and fuck you and all that stuff. But I don't know. I actually found how they concluded his story in this very interesting, because
Yeah, I will admit I don't know anything about whatever US agent is. So that for me. I'm going purely off of what I'm seeing in the show, because I have no comics knowledge at all, really.
Which is fine, to be honest. Like, it's a bit of a smiling for those who read the comics. But otherwise, I really like that, he had that choice, that he could go after Carly and finish her off, or he can save the...
I was a little proud in that moment. I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
good for you. Yeah. You still suck.
Definitely. But, it shows that he's not that evil that they made him out to be. And deep down he's just human who is full of flaws. So there's nothing to defend there, but I like it that he's a complex character, and not just that I go evil.
Yeah, I guess I mean, yeah, it's I just felt like, especially because they had that post-credit scene in episode 5 where like, he's making the shield again, and then it was just kind of like he turned up and he did a little bit of fighting and still sucked. Like, even with the super serum, he still sucks.
Well, it just shows that the super serum is one thing. You need more than that. Yeah. But I liked how they closed down his arc in this, and that we're gonna see more from Wyatt Russell, who's simply fucking awesome. Let's be honest. Like, come on, he did a great job with John Walker, and it will be interesting to see what they bring out, especially from the whole thing.
With the announcement last night of Captain America 4. Which will be very exciting. I'm very excited about that. I told this to you. I haven't been particularly moved by any of like really emotionally moved by any of the stuff I've seen so far. Like, I know you've been crying a lot.
That's me.
But like I loved the way that they handled grief in WandaVision and all that stuff, but it didn't really get to me as much as I kind of wanted it to, which I think is one of the disappointments I kind of had with it. But this last episode, like, just everything that happened, I was like, he comes in wearing the suit, tears. He says that speech, like, tears.
Done.
Carly died, tears.
Red Wing is back, tears. I'm not gonna lie, I was like, Red Wing, oh!
Isaiah Bradley finally getting his place in history, tears.
That murdered me. I was like, no.
Like, I wasn't like a sobbing mess or anything, but I was sitting there going, this is a lot to be like dealing with.
You have to sit down at one point with me and watch this together, because you're just gonna laugh, because I'm like.
I find it more difficult to watch things with other people and genuinely allow myself to get emotional about it. Like, really? if I'm sitting down and I'm aware that somebody's next to me, I will just naturally be like, can't. Like,
really?
My
God. I cry in front of everyone. That's
I do it in the cinema, but that's because it's dark and nobody can see me.
I mean, you can make a room dark as well, and then.
Yeah, there is something about the cinema, because it's like when you're in a room full of strangers, it's much easier to kind of shut off and be kind of
see you again.
Yeah, well, yeah, and also it's very insular, because like the moment you're there in a cinema and the movie starts, you really are just like here. You're not anywhere else in the room.
Yeah.
And especially if I'm at home, I'm more likely to be aware of my surroundings. Which is why I like to watch things like Falcon and the Winter Soldier in bed on my laptop when I wake up in the morning.
Well, it's fair. It's fair. But yeah, I freaking loved it.
I loved it.
I think I made that pretty clear from the start. Yes, I cried from the start when they remembered Steve, and then just all the way through.
Oh man, actually, I'm just gonna call out for a second, because after we finished our episode with Chance and Steph a couple of weeks back,
Yes.
Chance tried to convince me that Bucky was gonna die, and I was like, no. And he bet me my big box of nothing that I won from the episode, and suck it. I know I was right.
Chance.
I've already told him this, but like
You did? Good.
I did. I messaged him. You watched the episode, and I'm like, I just went, Pat's my big box of nothing. He's like, I'm coming for it. I'm gonna figure out a way.
We just have to play again. That's it. You guys can go for the big box of nothing.
He was like, next though, Loki. Loki dies. I'm like, again? He's been through enough.
That's a too easy bet. Like, come on.
And he goes, no, wait. Owen Wilson dies. And I went, actually, I would be more inclined to believe that.
I hope that Owen Wilson is going to stay as well.
Well, I mean, I hope so, but like, I'd be more inclined to believe that could happen.
Fair. Although I have to mention, because it made my heart sing. Chris Hemsworth posted a photo of himself, someone else. I don't know who else was on that picture, but there was one very important person on that picture, and that was Matt Damon. And I just want to say that Matt Damon was the funniest looking, as not the real looking. And I hope that he's just gonna get more roles.
He's in the new Thor movie,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's right. Because we talked about we think I was talking about this with some friends, where I was like, I think it'd be really funny if he just turned up as like he's just an actor, and like he just comes in as another character.
Yes,
within the
really
narrative of the thing. So he's like, he played Loki in Thor Ragnarok, and now this time he comes in and he's playing like Odin or something like that.
Something, yeah. Oh my god, I would love that. I'm not gonna lie. I love Matt Damon, so I'm happy to see him in whatever he does. So I was like, oh, that's such a sweet picture. I will put it somewhere when I edit this video. But yeah, altogether, I really like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I loved Zemo. I'm just gonna say that.
We all just appreciate.
Just
David Brawl. Daniel Brawl. I do this every time. It's Daniel.
It's Daniel. Come on.
I'm sorry, Daniel Brawl. I really am a fan of your work.
I love you.
I'm just bad with names.
It happens to all of us, so it's all good. And fucking Anthony Mackie is my new hero.
Oh, my absolute hero. Like, I was already like, yeah, of course he's going to be Captain America. But by the end, I'm like, yeah, of course he's Captain America.
Of course he's Captain America. What are you talking about?
It's like, oh, look, it's Black Falcon. It's like, no, that's Captain America. I'm like, yeah, damn right it is.
Such a good moment. Go on. I love that joke in there that I'm Captain America. Isn't he on the moon?
Yeah, I almost missed that because like when he said that, I was going, fuck yeah. Like out loud.
Oh god, I loved it so much. I love these subtle jokes in there. I was like, this is quality content for me. Like, come on. Yeah.
Good show. I'm fan.
Yes.
You get a thumbs up from me, Marvel.
And Desmond, you did such a good job, and it was such an honor to talk to you. Like, come on.
Desmond,
and deep down, I know that you're not dead. Like, I already pointed out to Katie that there were 2 cars there.
Yeah,
so.
it was one of those things. I do think it still makes sense if they're all dead, just as a narrative thing, because it ties everything up and it means that there's not more super soldiers kind of running around and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But like we could do like a full denial, like Moriarty and Sherlock could just be like, he's not dead.
He might not be. I'm just pointing out there were 2 cars there, so
sure were. Who knows?
We will see.
In that moment they panned to the guy in the car. I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And I was like, oh wait, right, okay, I got it.
And he fought with Bucky, like.
Yeah, I was like Hell yeah.
Yeah, we know this guy. We talked with him. Yeah.
Desmond, we love you here.
Yes.
Come back
We
anytime.
very much do. Yes, please. So the reason why we are here today is to talk about these things and the guys behind you and the only girl on that picture who's hiding. There you go.
She's doing her job properly, you know?
Yes, yes. So I will let you speak. Just take it away.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna. I feel weird about just going through it again and not addressing the fact that my internet just died, and we've kind of done this one. So I'm just gonna. I brought
You're good
these
actors.
over. Yeah. I brought this over because these are all my books. My beautiful Shadow and Bone books. I mean, it's not actually all of them. I have paperback copies of Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom over on my thing, but so I love these books very dearly. They live on my bookshelf. Not even my bookshelf. They live on my windowsill, like right next to my bed, because I just like having them nearby. So these books are they're important to me. They're kind of ones that I found later on in my. I started reading Six of Crows just after I finished my degree. It was kind of I got real into it properly then. I had Six of Crows for ages because I found it just like on the shelf. I think maybe in like Smith's or something, and I was like, "This looks interesting." It's a YA book. I'll take this. The blurb isn't written like stupidly, like most YA books. It's one of my pet peeves with YA books is the way that they'll just be like super dramatic in blurbs and make them sound like worse than they actually are. I'm just like, oh, but the blurb for Six Crows is written in really, really interesting, and I was like, okay, I picked this up, and I maybe read like a little, like maybe the first chapter or so, and then I put it down. I didn't really get into it properly. And then after I finished my degree, I finished my last piece of coursework, which was my script and all of like the adjoining sort of like process stuff that I had to write with it. I handed in my dissertation. I was like, I'm done. This is very strange. And then like a couple of days later, I went to go visit my friend Izzy in Cardiff, and I was exhausted. So there was a night where they all went out like properly, and I was like, I'm too tired to go out, so I'm going to stay here and read a book. So I read Six of Crows, and I just devoured the whole thing so fast. I was like, this is fucking good. And the characters in it are so freaking good. And I was so when they announced, I read those two, and then I went back and I read Shadow and Bone, which takes place before Six of Crows.
Yes.
And at the time, those were the only ones that were out. Since then, she's released two more as its own duology, which is King of Scars and Rule of Rules, which just came out, which is kind of, I think of being more like a direct sequel to Shadow and Bone, but like you do still kind of need to read Six of Crows in order to understand everything that's going on. It's a whole thing. I went back and Shadow and Bone isn't like, I don't love it as much because it does very much have that kind of YA feel. That's like, you know, the whole thing is like, we have to save the world and get rid of the fold and danger and all that sort of stuff. And the proportions of it were less enticing. And I think obviously first book was published in 2012. So it's like, it's been a while since she wrote this book, and she's gotten better since then. And I love her writing in general. As that's Leigh Bardugo, who wrote the books and is kind of was very important to the creation of the show as well. So yeah, these books are very important to me, and I love them very dearly. So, but like when they announced it, they were like, we're gonna put Six of Crows and Shadow and Bone together. I was like, are you now? And I was worried about it, and in a couple of ways. And I think we kind of agreed on this yesterday. There was a right to be worried, because it does feel at times like they're not giving either party enough time to kind of exist. And I think maybe that is just a reflection of the fact that they only had 8 episodes, when if they're going to be doing this much stuff, they could easily, I think, extend it to 10 and let it kind of take more time to get to know characters and whatnot. Because the show is incredibly fast-paced. Like, nothing stops for a minute. All go all the time, and but like I was looking at the whole thing very critically, and I was like, how do I feel that they've done with the characterizations of the characters? And I got a bit like the first episode. I was like, this dialogue's a bit clunky in places.
Yeah.
Where I think they were trying to like explain the world to people who weren't familiar with the books, and in a way that would kind of maybe go, it's a bit like, all right. The moment I think they allowed the characters to just sort of play off each other, it got way better. Like the first scene with Kaz when Inej comes in through the window, I was sitting there going, Kaz would never say hello. He'd just start talking like he knew, because a big thing in the books with Kaz and Inej is that the first time they met, she snuck up on him and he didn't know she was there, and then every time subsequent to that, he always was able to tell, even when nobody else was. He just knew how to find her. So in my head, I was like, he'd never say hello. He'd just start talking to her. But like, I was like, I've got to stop doing this. It's night. This is a show. They have to introduce the characters somehow.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I kind of went into it, and I was very critical watching it, and then afterwards I kind of was like, actually, there's a lot of things in here they did incredibly well in terms of like an adaptation from the books. Like the characterization of them is pretty great, but the casting in particular is fan-fucking-tastic, which is not something you get to say very often with a book adaptation.
That's true.
Like, it's so good. But I kind of want to hear your thoughts on it a little bit before I go into more of my stuff.
Well, first of all, I'm just going to share this with everyone that I have these books because of you.
I did, yeah.
And you're the reason I can read them, because otherwise I ordered it twice and they never arrived. So I was like, maybe I'm not going to read them, I guess. And then you just came in and saved the whole situation.
Yeah, Lily was like, I can't really afford to try and buy these books again. I've got to like save money for other things. And I was like, well, I'm going to do this then.
And you were sneaky as well, because you were like, I can just send you my old ones, and then they are completely new. And I was like, Katie.
I was no, I had always planned to buy you some, because I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't gonna part with these. I have multiple copies, but like, they're mine.
I was like, that would be, but I truly appreciate it, because I did manage to read. I am a slow reader because I do many things, and then a book needs to be very good for me to decide that I'm just gonna point my attention to that particular book instead of doing the other things, and this was that. And I was still slow because I had commissions and blah blah blah, but Shadow and Moon, I finished. I am on the second book right now. I am almost finished with that, and obviously I didn't touch.
She knows nothing about the crows.
I know nothing about the crows, so I will start with the kind of the negative side, which is not much.
Let's get all of the sort of criticisms of the stuff out of the way, so that we can go on to all the stuff that's actually so good about this show.
Yes, and we loved and appreciated, but there were things that I was like,
yeah.
So the first thing I'm gonna say, the editing at parts just sucked. I was like, I just don't like this editing. Like, come on.
There was like one or two moments where I was like, that shot could have lasted like a second longer, because like it was there were a couple of like inserts that were like so blink and you miss it. It's like, oh, you could have stayed on for like a little bit longer on that. Like
just let us be in that moment a bit longer. And that was a really weird edit. I think that was in episode 6 when Mal and Alina talk about what happened, and it bothered me so much. I was like, ugh. So basically, they show them like in a front view, and it looks like that they are not looking at each other as they are talking, because it's
the sort of it's like rule of with 180 rule just not like fitting properly.
And I was like, oh, this is just bugging me so much. Like it didn't happen anywhere else.
I honestly didn't see that, but I I imagine that you would be correct in that sense, but like, oh, man. So I watched somebody were talking about there's somebody on YouTube who was releasing like a lot of videos about it before it came out
Yeah.
because she'd watched the screeners and she was giving like information about what things people can expect that without giving spoilers because like we're not allowed to give spoilers, hence the nature of the press screening. And she was like, she said that there was like a really bad wig in one of the episodes, and I watched the whole thing and I'm like, I have no idea what she was talking about.
I don't know.
I mean, it probably is
that...
in there, and I just wasn't paying attention enough to like see it. But like, I have no idea what she's talking about.
I don't know that scene, and it was only that scene where I was like, "What the fuck happened here?" Like I just felt like that it was very weirdly edited, or that they didn't have the marks properly put down, and it was just a really weird camera angle on both of the actors, and I was like, "Oh, this is not working." But yes, I didn't get I call them the whoosh editing, where a scene blended into another.
I think it was
like,
there was like one very particular point where they used that, and I think it was because they were like, "This is full heist mode. We're going to cut between each of the people in this moment to like show like it's heist sort of a time for the because it was very focused on the crows as it was happening and like the target they were going for and all that sort of stuff. But I did clock that and was like, I don't know how well that works. Like I understand, but like I don't know how much I feel like.
And I think that's where the thing that I haven't read the Six of Crows, so I had no idea about these people. I knew that you loved them. That was my information. And I honestly think that they are fantastic as characters. Like I can tell from this little, but like having just read Shadow and Bone, and I like that story as it was. And when they decided that they cut up scenes with the crows, inserting them in there, I was like, I kind of don't want to see you guys, to be honest. Like, I don't feel like I need you in here. And since you weren't infused in the original story, I don't know how well it worked.
The interesting thing when thinking about it from my perspective, it works from a perspective of having the crows embroiled in Alina's story, but it does not the other way round. It's very it's very weird and interesting the way thinking about that, because it's like there are a lot of ties to the outer world and like a lot of reference to Sancta Alina in Six of Crows, because Inej is she has a lot of faith and all that sort of stuff. That's very important to the core of her character. And she believes in the saints and all that. She prays to them very regularly, and all of her, I don't think they go into it properly in the show, but all of her knives are named after saints. They always, and it's one of the things she describes in the books is to calm herself down. She often names her knives and goes through them and makes sure that they're all on her person still. Which is why when near the end of the series, Alina hands her the letter opener, it's like, it's not much, but it should have a couple of bullies, and she goes, I know exactly what to call this. That's her getting Sancta Alina, because she has one called Sancta Alina, and I was like, oh, it's so much. So like in that sense, it's like the crows being involved with Alina kind of makes sense, but like Alina being involved with the crows doesn't.
Yeah,
it's like it works one way but not the other. I kind of go, oh wow, okay, interesting.
I think they did Alina's story so well that I kind of didn't want anything else in there. Like, and we talked about how they are comparing everything to Game of Thrones. I told you that the reason why they compared this one to Game of Thrones because it does the same thing as Game of Thrones did, where there are multiple stories that will connect at some point. But Game of Thrones was like that originally.
Yeah, it was like. It was meant to be like that. Like, there are elements to that in Six of Crows, because she does split from character to character in Six of Crows, so it makes more sense in that sense. But again, Lena's story is told from her perspective in the book. So it is all very like, I don't know how much I'm on board with this, but I do so desperately want the crows around.
It's fair because they like I told you I fucking love Jasper. Like
we all do. This boy,
so good. Such the casting of Jasper is fantastic. Everybody's
Young,
fantastic.
I love you. Spectacular job.
Spectacular job. I really really did enjoy that. But I feel like that they have their own story,
Yeah,
and I want to see that separately and
yeah,
not infused with this one. And I think that's my biggest critique with the whole show. Like, I don't feel like I was able to connect with Alina as much as I was able to connect with her in the books because of this whole Alina grows and then Nina and then da, 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 da. And I was like, give me time, please. Can I get back my characters that I got to know in the first book, please? Just please. I feel like might have been a move of what if we are not successful,
yeah.
and
I
that's
get
why
that
we want to
impression as well.
include the crows as well.
It's
Um,
yeah, because
yeah,
I find it to be very interesting because everything that takes place in Six of Crows takes place 2 years after the end of Ruin and Rising, which is the last book in the trilogy.
yeah,
So it's like time has passed between those two stories, which is why the Crow stuff in the show takes place before what happens in the books. But it also is very interesting to me because I'm seeing things in there like there's a couple of bits of like character or like decisions that characters make. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. You do that way earlier than like that happens kind of in the book. And I kind of go, interesting. I do like the fact that they don't end up getting the Million Kruger, which
yeah.
for the longest time I read as Crutch. Um,
Me too.
watching the trailer and then seeing them say Kruger, I was like, what?
Oh, I misread a lot of things.
I was like,
Let's be fair.
sorry? It was Crunch. It was Crunch the whole time. I was like, no, Kruger. And I'm like, that makes sense, but in my head, it's Crunch.
Yes, yes. I know the feeling. I know the feeling.
'Cause the heist that they go on in Six of Crows is for 30 million Kruger? Like, it's a big take. And part of the reason that Inej ends up going on that heist is because she wants to pay off her indenture so she can leave Ketterdam.
Which is in here as well.
Which is in here, but like they kind of make it so that she like with the ending where Alina gives her the piece of jewelry, it gives him the piece of jewelry, and he's like, I'm going to use this to pay off Tantine. It kind of feels like they've resolved it already.
It felt like that.
So I'm like, I don't know how they're going to do the rest of it. How are they going to convince Inej that she needs to come on this fucking heist?
I'm sure they figured something out.
Because in my head, I'm like, they have to get to the point where they do the heist. Like, I need to see this.
They probably, yeah. And there was one more thing that bothered me, and it bothers me with everything. So not just in regards of Shadow and Moon. It's just, don't think that your audience is stupid.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that one. I feel like there were a couple of places where they really over-explained some things and did not explain certain things enough.
Yeah,
It's
I was like,
I still don't understand. I read all the books. I still don't quite understand what Murat's is. Like, I just don't know.
Yeah, it's I don't like it, but like, and they don't trust the characters either.
Yeah.
Like, the best example for that is that when they in episode 2 they show Alina and Mal ran outside and they are laying down and holding each other's hands, and then later on the Darkling asks like, have you been tested, blah blah blah, and then why do we have to see the scene again? When I think Jessie Maylie did an amazing job as Alina.
She's
and
phenomenal in this.
it's amazing,
Such a fan.
amazing job. Yeah, she has a new fan in me, 100%. And I was like, why don't you trust your actress that she can sell the whole thing with her expressions and everything? Because I think she did a fucking awesome job. And sometimes those cut-ins of looking back at times that we already seen, I was like, no, please don't. So please just trust your actors and actresses that they can do a good job selling us.
Yeah, and your storytelling. Just trust the fact that the information is going to come across. Without you having to kind of be like, look, it's the thing, and it's like, no, we got it. I did get it.
We understand. We are here and we understand. Like, I felt that it was way too much. I like the symbolism that Alina saw the stag in the end, stepping on board of the skiff, but I was like, You don't have to explain to us why it was supposed
To be fair, I think that was necessary. That was a necessary step for her to. I think it was a necessary step for her to understand that the stag, gave her, like, it gave her the power. She gave her the apple pie. It didn't need to go through the thing of her being like, it was for me.
To the darkling. Like, how did you do that? Oh, no. And I was like,
here you go. And I'm like, okay, like,
this is
you could have done like one or the other, but like, I don't think you need to do both.
Yeah. I call it the movie explaining when you just have to put it in their mouths and you're like, yes, and you're like, no, we got it. We understood it. We have minds that work.
I had that a couple of times with some of the dialogue where people would like say things explicitly when they didn't actually need to. Like even with just like small things like characters naming other characters that they're talking about. I'm like, that's implied. Like
we already know.
I got that. Like there's a moment where Inej says something like, "You're going to hand me back to," and I thought she was just going to say her, and then she continued to say Tante Helene, and I'm like, we know. We do know this. Info.
Thank you. But like, all together,
that specific about it.
Yes, yeah. Those were the only things that bothered me a bit. I was like,
yeah, let's get into some good stuff.
I still love the characters very dearly, and this is my time to shine. Sorry, I have to take this moment. I'm gonna flex first of all. I'm just gonna flex because I need to flex.
She got this ready.
I have it ready. I met with Ben, and he's an absolute sweetheart, and he was fucking superior as the Darkling. Like, I have problems now.
Yeah, no, I have to say, I think Ben Barnes really took the time to understand the Darkling in every facet in a way that most fans don't seem to get. We're not going to go there. I went through. I've been going through the Tumblr chat because I'm like, gift sets galore. And I saw a take yesterday that made me go, nope, I'm not doing this. Like,
I don't want to know.
No, I'm not going to. But it literally just made me go, no, I'm not doing this. It's a bad relationship, you guys. He's so much older than her. His whole thing is about power.
And not just that, but it's like, if you can't see that the Darkling is a real ass motherfucker, I don't have better words.
Innately, the character is built. He's abusive. Like, he's an abusive man.
He is an abusive man, and it's pretty clear from.
And I was really thrilled that he managed it. But I loved about the way that they built his character in the show and made it really, and the way that Ben played him was that you can see that the Darkling is an incredibly abusive person. He wants power and he wants to do things his way because he thinks that his way is the right way to dig things.
The right way, yeah.
He loves Ravka and he loves the Grisha and he really does want what he thinks is best for them, but he doesn't. Yeah. He does it all at the expense of everybody else. Like he's abusive. Like I said, he's actively like an abusive man. And all of the women in his life, even the men actually, poor David also falls under this category, who also, incredible, love David. He's in it too little.
Yes, we needed more David.
I love David so much. Every moment with him was wonderful. Just that little bit where he was like, you don't need... Okay, yes, David.
he was awesome.
Like
awesome
my sweet
casting.
boy.
But I even wrote you that I don't know if that's in the books because if it is, I am spoiled now of how he created the fold, like the whole story behind it. That was at the beginning of episode 7.
No, I don't actually know because it's been like 3 years or so, maybe 4 years since I read them all. Yeah. So I did like when it comes to Shadow and Bone, I'm a bit more. My memory's a bit more hazy about like the specifics of the plot. So I don't remember if that's exact. Like Luda definitely doesn't exist. If I remember correctly, I don't remember her at all. But I may be wrong, and somebody's going to correct me. But like I don't remember her in the slightest. I was like, that whole thing was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. I don't think this was in the book. It didn't strike anything familiar in my head. I knew that he created the fold because as a weapon. Like he wanted something to protect Grisha and Ravka.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't remember anything in my head. It was he in the book he sought out the king and made the second army. That was his thing, because Ravka was constantly at war, and it still is because of where the fold is and all that sort of stuff, and the fact that it's surrounded by two enemies. And he and Grisha in Ravka were seen as others, like othered and all that stuff, and he was the one who came in and made sure that they had a place. He built the little palace, like that was him very much. I didn't know anything about the king suddenly turning against him. I don't know if they used that just as a way to kind of bring in this idea of him killing himself off and then coming back later on as like the new black. I was going to say black heretic. There's only one black heretic, and it is him. But
and it's him.
The new Darkling every time round.
Yeah.
Like he was making this like fake line of descendants when it was actually him the whole time.
Yeah.
No, that's
definitely. Yes, it's definitely that part is definitely in the book. I just don't know if this backstory as it was in the beginning.
I think they made it like that specifically for the show.
Okay, then I have one more critique then. Don't make these abusive men into someone that you can kind of root for, because that like struck a heartstring in me, and I was like, I don't know if that's right. Yeah,
the whole thing with Ludo kind of made me confused, because in my head he was always somebody who wanted power because he wanted to like he does come from a place of like he wants this for Grisha because he is Grisha and he thinks that they deserve better, but his way of going about it was always
the
fucked up
power side.
Yeah. Like it wasn't good.
Yeah, and it made me confused. I was like, I don't know if I'm okay with it. That you want me to feel bad.
I think
for
you can
even
feel enough for him in his quest to protect the Grisha, even if he is not doing a particularly good job of it.
Yeah, I mean,
I actually loved that scene that she had that Jessie Millie as Alina had with him, where she basically goes, "We could have done this together."
That was really good.
But you did this to me, and now we're done. Like, you fucked this. And which is like exactly right. Like that is his character in a nutshell, where it's like he could have been a better human being. He could have been somebody who actively looked out for people, but he decided that his way was the only way to do things, and it at the cost of everybody else around him.
Yeah. So I'm like, let's not put him on a pedestal, please.
No, I do think the show still did a good enough job of being like, yeah, this bad thing happened to him and it's sad, but also he's still a piece of shit.
He is, like, let's be fair, and that's why I told you I'm not gonna get infused in this whole community and social thing about Shadow and Boom, because it just bothers me so much. I'm like, this is not okay. He's a bad person.
Like you can like a character and be fascinated by him and like him and be like, this guy is awful, but I like him as a creation and stuff. It's like not a good guy.
Not a good, like, don't root for people like this, please. I love him. I think he's really well written in the books as well. Like I love how he's just so close-minded, and then he's just not trusting anyone but himself, and I think those small touches in there, I'm like, beautiful writing. I love it, and I love Ben Brown, so it comes from that place as well. I immediately told you that he's gonna be like Switch, and he turns out to be the bad guy.
Yeah,
remember when I read it?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting you to pick up on the fact that he is the Black Heretic. But because I was waiting for you to get. I didn't realize it happened in the first book. Was the thing, because I couldn't remember, obviously.
Yeah.
But I was waiting for you to find that out, because like every time it was the way you were like, yeah, but he's like my sad boy, and I'm like, no, he's not. He's a bad dude.
If I would have played Alina, this whole story would have turned out very differently.
Okay, actually, speaking of, this kind of goes on to my next bit.
Yes.
Which is Mal, who they did so well, because Mal in the book is a bit boring. Like, he's just a bit dull. Like, he's lovely and he's fine, but like in the show, the fact that they took the time to show us like his trip north to find the stag and all that sort of stuff, which I actually would have loved to read in the book. I thought Archie is just so good. Like, we were talking about this. The way that Mal is described at the beginning of the book as being this like really attractive, charismatic dude and all that sort of stuff. And I actually said, it was like, I think Leigh was a little bit obsessed with making everybody pretty.
Yeah, bit, tiny bit.
Which makes sense for the Grisha, because actively like using their power makes them feel like stronger and more of themselves and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But like Mal, she was just like, he's really hot, and I'm like, okay, but like I like the fact that he's not conventional, like a conventional like sort of leading man type. I mean, I still think Archie is a very good looking dude.
Very good looking dude, yeah.
But I think that his character and charisma comes through way more in his like, you know, actions and how he portrays like the character and everything. I think that makes him more attractive, you know. And I think that it's a really smart idea to kind of play him off of the obviously incredibly pretty Ben Barnes. Because it's like you have this character who's like really attractive and like alluring and all this sort of stuff, and like why Alina would fall for it, like that kind of spell and all that whatnot. But Mal is there, is like he's solid, you know. He is always like, and I like the fact that you actually get the sense watching the show, like from the beginning, that Mal really cares about Alina, because like when you're reading the books from Alina's perspective, she's always like she's always like, I don't think he cares about me. It's like, well, I mean, he does. Alina, you're just an idiot. But, like, you're just being dumb here. But like I like the fact that it's really like they make an effort to be like, no, Mal cares about Alina as well, and he's working his way to like, you know, look after her, and like these two are friends and they have been for a very long time. They have a very strong bond for more reasons than one, but let's not get into that because that's later. And not something that goes into in the show, and I don't think you're there in the books, so that's a little tease for you there.
No, are they brother and sister?
No, they're not. No. God, no. Jesus Christ, no. No. It's something more interesting than that.
Okay, good.
Which I'm going to do my best to not spoil certain things so that you can actually get to them in the book, but I might have to provide context for some things like in Six of Crows and all that sort of stuff, for like character stuff, because we will get onto the crows, because like that's the thing I want to talk about the most.
And Milo the goat.
Yes, that's a part of all the crow stuff. That's in a minute.
Let's be fair.
But I loved Mal. I really loved everything that they gave to Mal. I'm so glad that more people are on Team Mal, because I'm like, yes, Mal is great.
As it fucking should be. Let's be honest. Like, stop obsessing over the Darkling. I know I am obsessing over him, but it's a different reason. Okay, stop it.
So I very much enjoyed the whole thing. I still think it gave me the same feelings as I got reading the book, so I'm like less like inclined to love it as much, but I do think they gave it way more interesting depth. I think the decision to make Alina half Shu really worked in the context of the show and the way that they built it in the way that they kind of had it as like instead of just like, you know, white protagonist being like, who, me? I'm not special. You have this kind of built-in thing where she's like, that's the way it is, right? It's the way it kind of gets with they're like, how did we not notice you before? But like in the show, it's like, well, you didn't notice her because you kept looking at her and thinking of her as the enemy, because she looks Shu, which is Shuhan is the name of the country below Ravka on the map, and is the kind of it's meant to kind of be an amalgamation of like East Asian countries like Mongolia and like China and those sorts of areas. And so it's like, I did love the way that they kind of had that as like a built-in thing, and like it came out through like all these other little different bits of things. It's like, yeah, you didn't notice her because, you know, you've got all this like stuff going around that you're always at war with these people and you think of her as the enemy, and it's like I just thought that, and Jessie May Lee has talked about this quite a lot in the interviews that she's done, where she's like, that's one of the reasons why she really loved this version of Alina that they made. I just liked the fact that they kind of really they gave Alina a lot more, I think. Yeah, which I was very much a fan of.
It's interesting, because they gave her a lot more, and then they took a few things away from her, I feel like.
She's not quite as stubborn as she is in the book. I found it like the whole scene, like the scene
Yeah.
when Jenya comes in and all the maids start like leading into the bath and scrubbing her. I was like waiting for her to like start like being like, "Hold the fuck on! I just got here.
Yeah,
I need a minute." But like she kind of went along with it for a little bit longer, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. I still think that she has the kind of a nice strength to her. Sorry, there's people knocking and talking outside my room. She has this she does have a nice kind of quiet strength to her, and I think she's sort of funny and a little bit sarcastic in a way.
Yeah. No,
I
like those. I like those parts. But the one thing I mentioned to you is that I think it was so important in the book that the Darkling made that first move to kiss her, and I didn't like that they changed that up here. Like,
I see what you mean. I do see that why they made the decision, because it is like a I think it was more to show that she was very much enthralled with this guy. And I kind of understand why they did it. I don't know if it was necessarily the right decision. And I feel like it could have shown him to be predatory too early in the story. Because up until that point, you don't actually know that this whole thing where he's putting on like, oh, the sins of my forebearers and I'm trying to make Ravka a better place and all this sort of stuff is like a tale spun to make him seem more sympathetic, you know. So I think that in the terms of like a TV show, her doing that makes it seem like, oh, she's just, you know, into this guy now. But like also at this point, you don't know that he's been stealing all of Mal's letters and making sure that none of her letters get out. So he's you know, he's isolating her. What a shock! It's a piece of invasive behavior.
yeah, but I see what you mean, but at the same time, I'm like, it was so. I think it was very important to the Darkling character to do that. Like, I even messaged you after I read it in the books, like, okay, that came out of nowhere, but at the same time, it made sense to who he was.
Yeah.
Like he would use his seduction and his pretty face to get to Alina, and I think that they kind of took that away from him this way, and you know I think that it's like I don't know if I liked it. No, I didn't. I don't like it. I'm not gonna lie.
I think that's fair. Like I said, I think I get it. I think I understand it in terms of like just a storytelling like pacing thing in terms of like what having people come to it not knowing anything else. I think it makes sense from that perspective, but I do also understand your point there.
No,
I think I think you can argue it either way. That's very much. I think that's very much a taste thing.
Let's talk about the crows.
Let's talk about the fucking crows. Okay. Wait, actually, before we move on to the crows, I just want to point because I have this right here. They have the lives of saints in the show, and I've showed this to you. In the show, they have like there's a moment where the apparat comes in, who, by the way, perfect casting as well. So
Very
creepy. Like the character is already creepy, but the guy who plays him did such a good job of being like, oh god, I really like the moment like after the during the ball where she's finally like showing off her powers to the thing, all the nobles and whatnot, where he just comes out of nowhere and grabs her arm. It's like, oh fuck, he really is the worst. I fucking hate this guy. I was very happy about that. That he is so creepy. But like the Lives of Saints, like he gave her the book, and I was like, hang on a second, like I have that book. Like it's the same design and everything. I've got the sleeve on it still because like it's a little bit different because obviously it's got Leigh's name on the bottom of it and everything, and it actually says the Lives of Saints in English. But this is this is the Ravkan language that they created for the show, which is very cool.
It's very
and obviously the version in the show is kind of leather bound and the sides are gold trimmed because it's like a very. But it came up on the screen. I was like, hang on a fucking second, and I pulled my book and I was like, it is the same book. I'd recommend getting this to people who are interested in reading more about the story of the Saints because like it has all this really pretty art in it, and you find out more about like all the different saints that are that are you know the basis of Inertia's faith. Did you see my fucking segue there? I'm just putting this fucking thing back on real quick. Hang on a second. Crows. I wasn't sure how I felt about Freddie Carter's interpretation of Kaz for a while. Like, I went back and forth on it a couple of times. I have to keep reminding myself that these crows are not the same versions of the crows that are in the books, because they're not those people just yet. Like, at the time at the beginning of the when you meet them all, Inej hasn't killed anybody. That's a big. I was like, oh, okay, we're really like far back, because like Inej does occasionally take people out in the books. It's still very much a thing for her, but like it is something she has done. So I had to keep reminding myself that these are not the same characters. Like up to a certain point. That being said, Jesper is basically like perfect.
Oh, he was so good.
Like 100%. He came on screen. I was like, I love him. I love him so much. Like, just
he's probably my favorite part of the whole thing. To be honest,
that is absolutely fair. He's wonderful. Kit Young did a fantastic job. I'm so glad, and I said this to you, because Jesper in the books is canonically bisexual. Like, it's shown he flirts with everybody. He is into everybody. There's a very important part in the books where he's talking to somebody, and he goes, the person he's talking to, they're talking about like relationships and stuff. And in the guy he's talking to says, just girls? And he goes, no, not just girls. And it's like, that is the confirmation that like this guy, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
he likes all the genders. So having the scene where he like had that moment with the stable boy, I was so thrilled, because I was like, oh, they've gone really in for it. Okay. Yes. Get it, Jasper. You deserve this. I'm really glad that they showed his like addiction to gambling as well, because that's also a very big part of his character, like to the point where like it is detrimental to them at times. Like it's not a good thing. Like, he's a gambler. He can't walk away from a wager. That is built into him. He likes fights. I also loved the scene on the train. I mean, obviously with Milo the goat, who is the MVP of the whole show, we love him.
We love Milo.
the real best character in the whole thing. But like when he stood up holding the goat and took out all the Volcra, that's also the Jesper that I know and love. And it like he's a spectacular sharpshooter with an uncanny ability to shoot. I wonder why that could be. She says, teasing things. I mean, Jesper is wonderful, but like Kaz, I said this to you, and you were like, "What are you talking about? He's like a dick," and I'm like, "Yeah, but like, I realized what I meant by this. I said I think he comes across as too nice, and what I mean by that is like he's still not nice, but like in the book he is ruthless. Like, I like his introductory scene in the like this. It's technically the second chapter because there's like a sort of side first chapter with a different perspective. It's Inej. It's from Inej's perspective. They go to like this parlay with a different gang, and his introduction, you go from being like, oh, who's this fucking kid? Right? He's wearing a stupid hat and he has a cane, right? To Jesus Christ, this guy, like he's meant to be terrifying. And like people are meant to look at him and be like, oh, it's like all the like barrel bosses are like, who haven't interacted with them properly are like, he's just a kid. Like how could he be so like? Why are people so afraid of him? And then he comes in and tears their entire lives apart. And you're like, yep. So when I said he's too nice, it's because they didn't. There is an element to him that he doesn't have the same ruthlessness as he does in the book. And he's like he says he's more willing to tell Inej that he cares about her than he is in the book. Like a lot of Inej's chapters are like, I don't know if Kaz actually gives a shit. Like he's being a bastard. Like I can't. Like he does a couple of things for me, and I appreciate that about him, and I trust him, and I have his back. But like, meh, you know, that kind of thing. Whereas from Kaz's perspective, he's like Inej. Where in his head he's like, I couldn't do this without you, Inej, and then he's like, you're an investment. It's like, shut the fuck up, Kaz, you little bastard. But then it took me a while to kind of get on board with the fact that this is not the same Kaz as that we meets in Six of Crows. Like he's still building himself up to be dirty hands, bastard of the barrel. Which I liked that when you meet Poppy, he I actually don't know what pronouns to use for Poppy, because I was like, that's it. That's an interesting one. I'm going to stick with they until I maybe find out.
Yeah.
I liked Poppy a lot though. But like when they were talking, they used all the different like pseudonyms for like Dirty Hands, and like I also like the fact that the first time you see Kaz and he goes up to his room, they have that whole conversation about the decaffle, because that happens in Six of Crows. Cracked me up. I'm so glad that they did that properly, because he really is like, I don't care about this. Why are you talking to me like this? And he goes upstairs and it's just on the wall, and I'm like,
Yeah,
that's my
that
boy.
was so good.
Yeah, I was so thrilled. So I think Freddie Carter does do a very good job with certain things. Like he has the rage, like it's there. I love the fact that you had the moment between him and the Darklings showing down, because I was
such a
like,
good one.
that is Kaz Brecker in a nutshell, being like, yeah, I'm facing down against a Darkling and I'm gonna beat him with a fucking flash bomb.
That was a good scene. Very good scene.
Sorry, I've just got stuff in my throat. Because like the thing, what people wanted was, because they came face to face, and I was like, hit him with the K.
That would have been too easy.
Like people were waiting for that as like a thing, but I was very thrilled with the fact that the Darkling's coming up and he's like about to do the cut, which we've already seen is like, you know, pretty fucking deadly, and the Kaz is just like, fuck it, flash bomb, gone, and I'm like,
done.
That's my boy.
That's a good scene. I like that scene.
Yeah, I like the fact that in the scene where he takes off his gloves for the first time, you don't see his hands. That was a nice move. I thought we were going to see, but I like the fact that they've actually kept that a bit more kind of like a bit more mysterious, because it's like, no, Kaz doesn't take off his gloves for anybody. The only person he's comfortable doing that around is Inej, which I like the fact that they had that introduction where she came in through the window. But I still think like he wouldn't have said hello. That's just not who he is.
That was for the show. Let's stick with that.
I think, yeah, in my head I'm like, okay, this piece of dialogue right here is to introduce that her name is Inej.
Basically, yeah.
Speaking of Inej, Queen of my heart, stab the Darkling. What a fucking queen.
I was like, oof. I was like, wait a second.
I was so thrilled. I was like, yes, get it. Get him. Stab him.
It felt too easy.
Well, I mean, it wasn't like the only thing she did, right? Like, it was not like it killed him or anything.
No.
I'm glad that she got him in like one form or another, like a little bit, because like obviously these are characters who don't come across each other at all in the books, right? Yeah. So like being able to have that moment was like, Inej is fucking, she rules at this.
But you know why it didn't make sense for me? Because isn't the Darkling in the kefta, which is like bulletproof?
It's bulletproof. It's not knife proof. You see a moment like earlier on in the fight, when the Theodens come to like take Alina, the sun's you know, they're like witch, you know, all that stuff. You see one of the Grisha get stabbed. Like somebody throws a knife and he gets stabbed.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like,
it doesn't make sense to me.
Like, and also it didn't go into his kefta, it went into the middle part, which isn't his kefta.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
so it's like
saved.
Yeah, it's like the kefta is like, you know, it protects the heart, but it didn't protect this part because it was open, you know.
Yeah.
So like it made sense. So trust me.
I will just point it out here that the costume design on this was fucking spectacular.
I loved Inej's costume. I loved, like, I'm so obsessed with the scene where she's like summoned to see Tantu, and she's like take the knives off, and she spends like 2 minutes taking off all of her knives, and I'm like, I love you so much.
Yeah.
Oh man, I would like to hear your actual thoughts on the crows, like fully, because like we've talked about it a little bit. I know you love Jesper. Everybody loves Jesper.
Jasper's great.
What a great guy. But like, Kaz, yeah. Oh, we haven't even gone to Nina and Mateus yet, which is the other thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love them. Like I said, I think my problem with it is that I want to see them separately from all this. So, you know, with that in mind, it wasn't a bad infusion. It worked in places, and there were places where I said that I was like, I wish we wouldn't have, kind of. But I'm gonna say that they are really good characters, and characters that I could invest in. Like, I can already tell that. But
Need more time. Need more time.
Yes, need more time. Jasper is everything.
guy.
Like he's easily my favorite. Inej I liked, but I think we didn't have enough time to get to know her. I was like, I like you. I even told you once we finished with the series that I wasn't emotionally invested, which is weird with me.
Right.
The girl who cries and everything and immediately connects with everyone. I think if it's all done right, but here I kind of couldn't really. Funnily enough, the person I connected the most is the person who's badly in it, and that was Nina and Matthias, and I freaking love them.
Right.
I'm just gonna point that out.
I'm thrilled about this. I said this to you. I was so surprised just how like one to one the adaptation of that story is, because the dialogue is even the exact same in the books.
Yeah.
Like the whole scene on the ice where he's like, "I like you," and he's like, and she's like, "Why is that so bad?" And he goes, "Because you're horrible." You're
That was
lewd
such a good
and like
scene.
all of this other stuff, and she goes and she does that bit. She's like, "No, I'm beguiling you," and he's like poking
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
exactly, like one to one out of the books. I was like, that is like I every time a line was, I was like, no, this is the scene in the book. It's like exactly as is. The scene at the end, where she hands him the slavers is done slightly differently, but it is just for the sake of you know, cinematics, that's all the stuff.
Yeah.
In the book, it's they end up getting to that town and they get a room and all that sort of stuff, and Grisha spies nearby, and doesn't let them see her, because she knows that the moment they do, she's going to get taken back to Ravka. So she then finds a slaver on the docks and gets him handed over. I wasn't sure how much Nina and Matthias we were going to get, honestly, because like they weren't really in a whole lot of the promotional material. We haven't really seen a whole lot of interviews from the two of them.
Yeah.
But the moment I saw like the some of the pictures coming out of like the press, the sneak peek pictures sort of stuff, and saw like Nina on the ship, I was like, I know exactly what they're doing, and I think it's a very smart idea, because it's like their whole thing, and it really sets them up for why Nina goes to Kettler in the first place and joins the Crows. Which you kind of get the sense of at the end of that at the end of that thing where he's like, we need another Heartrender, and it's like, Nina's just over there.
Yeah, that was very, very. I found it interesting, like how much more I connected to those two, and I think they did a fantastic job. Like that relationship that they built there is just fucking phenomenal.
No, I'm beguiling you.
Yeah, so good, such a good scene. I was like, oh, I love this so much. I can't tell you why, but I freaking love this so much. But yeah, altogether, I see the potential in them. I am still on the opinion that they should have had their separate story.
I almost think if you were going to keep them in the same show, just let them have separate stories within the same show.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
because I didn't need them going to find Alina. I just didn't need it. I think it makes sense. It's particularly for Inej to meet Alina, and that is something I did like that scene at the end where she does give her the knife is very much like a and the thing where she sees her perform for the first time, and she does that. I did love the way that they like it's like the sign of the cross, but it's like they go from here and then they do the sun.
Yeah.
I was like, that's beautiful. I love that as a concept. I love the fact that like that whole scene where Jesper's waiting outside with like the horses and the carriage, and she just gets into the box and he's like,
I love that scene so much. I was like, okay, that's actually quite smart. I like that.
It's like excellent. But like the reason like afterwards that she's like, I don't want to be a captive again, and Ash is immediately like, yeah, go. I'm not going to stop you, basically. Like, so yeah, that makes sense. It did confuse me that Kaz admitted to her being a saint by the end of it. I was like, he wouldn't know. Like, because I mean, I did like there were a couple of moments in the show where they used iconic lines from the books, such as that moment where Alina is like, you did this to me, we can't be on the same team after this, and he goes, fine, make me your villain. Like, that is a moment I was like, they did the thing.
My favorite line from the first book, I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, it's like, a lot of people's favorite lines. It was a big one. I was so like, good. I saw the build up to it, and I was like, it's coming. I know it's about to happen.
And that's where it shows that he is completely clueless, that he's doing it wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
But there's a couple other ones. The whole conversation that they have by the fire, that Kaz and Ed have by the fire, where he's
yeah,
like, where he admits to the fact that like he can't see the magic trick behind it. Ishima has to be real, and
yeah,
she's like, why do you pick crows? Is it because like we're this like, she kind of puts it in this derogatory manner. That whole speech where he's like, crows look out for each other, they remember faces. That also comes directly from the books. It's a big thing. I was like, he's doing the thing. It's like he's doing the thing. So, the other one that really, really made me happy was on the skiff at the end, when Jesper does the at my funeral, make sure I have an open cast where everybody needs a couple more minutes with this face.
Oh yeah.
That comes from the books, but the big thing is afterwards is he goes, there's something that they say to each other in the barrel is no mourners, no funerals. It means it's among them, it passes for good luck is what it is. It's introduced as in the books. So like the fact we had to wait for long for that, I was like, oh, they did the thing. Like I did that before they did. I was like, I know exactly what's about to happen. It was like, no mourners, no funerals, let's go. Like to the point where, hang on, if I can get my this copy of the book out. It's right there on the back. I'm all backwards, but like it's right there. It's a whole.
There you go. Beautiful. It's yeah. It was all together as just looking at the whole. I think it's a very good first season.
Strong start can absolutely get better, and I think it should 100%. Get the potential to. Netflix, you need to renew the show. I need to see like Nikolai Lantsov.
I honestly think that they're gonna pick up a season 2. Like I cannot see that not happening. Like I feel like that this like the promotion that went into it, the marketing, the all the interviews. I
just really hope that people like enough people are watching it for them to be like, okay, this is worth making more of, because I reckon it was probably a pretty expensive endeavor.
I mean, I told you that it's these books are never been translated to Hungarian, so I couldn't even find them in Hungarian, and it's number 1 in the Hungarian top 10 on Netflix. So I think that shows.
I wonder, because it wasn't in the UK one yesterday, and now I'm curious as to whether it's made it there now.
Check it out.
I'm having a look. Because there are multiple things that I'm like I want to see. As the show goes on, obviously I want to see Nikolai Lantsov. Yeah, it's number 1 in the UK today as well, so we're good. We're doing well.
We're good.
I want to see Nikolai. Very important to me. I see Nikolai, who is.
I want to see Nikolai as well.
You're only part the way through the book. Like the King of Scars and Rule of Wolves is so much more his story. Because he deserves it. And
he's a very good character.
Out of when I was reading the trilogy initially, it was like, I don't care about Mal and the Darkling's a dick. Why wouldn't you care more about Nikolai? He's right there. But Nikolai has a much better partner later on, which is great. Pardon me. Sorry, I was like, that's coming. And there's a character in Six of Crows that they haven't introduced yet, which they kind of teased a little bit in one of the conversations between Jesper and Kaz, where he's like, you think we need an explosive expert in every job we do? And I'm like, well, there's a certain young character who hasn't been introduced yet.
Yeah, I figured that was someone else in there.
Give me Wyland Vanek. I want to see him.
There you go. I will say character. I will point out one thing, that for Nikolai, they have to cast someone who is the typical pretty face, because that's how I imagine him.
Well, they have to go with somebody, or even I don't know. How much do you? I was about to say some stuff, and I was like, hang on, I don't actually know what they've gone into in the book at this point. Because Nikolai is very interesting as one of the sons of the king.
Yes.
He's a little different, and I don't want to go into it if you haven't learned certain things about him yet. I have a feeling you haven't, so I'm not going to say it.
Maybe not, maybe yeah.
But his casting is going to have to be very specific.
Very specific. They can't go sideways on that, because it's like
no he's but they have to get somebody who they'll be able to change up his face a little bit, so that
but
for other things, which maybe I won't go into, so that people who haven't read the books don't need to have that piece of information before they meet him.
I think these days that's the easiest part in the
Oh
whole
yeah, sure.
thing. So I'm not worried about that. But they definitely. I mean, it sounds a bit shallow, but they have to go for the looks.
Well, yeah,
here.
that he's gorgeous.
Yes, he's described
He
as
is
gorgeous.
he is
and
described as gorgeous, but he's also kind of like this sort of golden haired child, and
Yes.
he deserves, and he's got to be so like that perfect wit. Like he's
Yep.
too clever fox. He's oh man, I love Nikolai so much. Like,
Yes.
I also am thrilled with the way that how they managed to navigate Zoya's story, because I think I like
that as well.
I think they did
Yeah.
a very good job of being able to show that she was just as much somebody who was manipulated by him as everybody else. And Jenya, for that matter. She was wonderful. Like, perfect casting, again.
Perfect casting. Yeah.
Absolutely perfect, Jenya. I was very glad to have that scene at the end where she came in and had to kind of face Alina. And I like the fact that Alina backed down from it so quickly.
Yep. That was pretty
Where she
awesome.
still came from that place of, like, you screwed me over, but also now I understand. He
Yeah.
screwed me over too. You don't have to be this. And she's like, no, he's my general and I am a soldier. And I need to go do this. It's like, no, you don't. Jenya,
No,
you
you
deserve
don't.
more than this.
Yeah. That was really good. But yeah, altogether, a very good start. It can definitely be better.
It can
I'm
be
just gonna
improved,
point
but
that
I
out.
think that they
Improved.
might improve it next season. I kind of
Yeah.
hope that they keep them a bit more separate next season,
I hope so.
because I don't actually think it. I think it can still work as like two separate
yeah.
like things going on. Like everything in
Yeah,
Catadam, I was like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, this is great. 100%. I think it can work separately. And I'm just gonna be salty here. To the creators of The Punisher, the scars on Ben's face in the end. That's how you do scars, for fuck's sake.
I was that whole bit where they were like, now that the Darkling is dead, I'm like, he's not fucking dead.
He's not dead. He's Ben Barnes. I mean, he's the Darkling.
He's
Also, Ben Barnes. I'm done. And I just destroyed my setup.
Oh man, just like every time they were like, now he's dead, I'm like, he absolutely is not.
He's not, man.
Also, the fold is still there.
It's still existing. But yeah,
There's a
can't wait for more.
certain privateer that you might have to go find on the sea.
Can't wait to see more from this, and I would be surprised if they wouldn't pick this up for season 2. I'm just gonna say this.
I'm really crossing. I'm just so used to things I love getting cancelled so quickly that I'm like, please. I had the same thing when I watched the first season of The Umbrella Academy, where I was like,
Yeah.
oh god, they're gonna cancel it, and then they didn't. Obviously, they very because I mean that was such a fucking smash hit success for them. I was like, maybe they'll cancel it. I'm like, they didn't. They, in fact, season 3 sometime.
Season 3.
They're filming it right now.
There you go. So I think there's more than enough hope here that this is gonna come back. So I'm not afraid. I'm just
We'll
gonna
talk about it when it does.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely do that, and I will be reading all the books by then, because it will be at least another year or maybe 2.
A year and a half at the very least.
Year and a half. Yeah. But yeah, we loved it.
I did love it. I want to see. Just thinking about Milo. I was sitting there going something I was not ever expecting to see was Kaz Brecker with a fucking goat.
Oh, that goat.
It was just the image of Kaz just walking around with this like that expression on his face, and just with this like adorable goat under his arm. I was like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
If they would have sacrificed Milo,
I was thrilled about the fact that it's like, I'm not throwing out Milo. I was like, it's not for that. Like, oh, good.
I don't need a Milo in my life, just pointing that out. That's right.
There is one moment that I just want to bring attention to in episode 2, when Kaz is like, he's just had that meeting with Pekka Rollins, who very important. That whole thing was huge. I won't go into any more, but like, he played that very well. Like the rage, my god. But like afterwards, when he's downstairs after he takes the shot, and he does that, there's that shot of him where it's just his face and he's looking out over the Crow Club. There's a thing that they go into quite a lot in the book, where every time he's coming up with a plan, they kind of go, scheming face, definitely. And it had that shot, and I was like, scheming face. He's scheming. I said it. I was like, it's the scheming face. I was a bit disappointed nobody said it in the show, but like, there's season 2 to do that.
Yeah, we're gonna get, I think, something better, even better than this.
That and Jesper at the end of it. Maybe the true wealth was the friends we made along the way. I'm like, I can't believe you actually just said that in a serious TV show.
It was good. It was very good. All right. I think we can wrap this up by saying that still take care of yourselves. Still wash your hands.
Please watch this show. I don't know why you'd watch this entire thing and have the whole thing spoiled for you if you weren't going to watch the show.
Yeah, I'm probably going to put out a big spoiler warning at the beginning. Like, we went in deep.
Big spoiler warning for the show, but also minor spoiler warning for the books. I did try to hold back a little bit from bits and pieces, mainly for your sake, but also for everybody else.
Yes, 100%. But watch it. It's really good.
Please watch it. I want more.
We want more.
Watch it for me.
100%. Watch it for Katie. And also, before we go, I'm just going to say that Ben Barnes, you can call me.
Honestly,
I can't wink. Katie, wink for me. Thanks.
I will say, to any of the crows, you're welcome to come talk to us anytime. I would love to gush about all of this with you.
Oh, 100%. 100%. We're going to make that happen. You know me. I'm going to be on it.
Any of them, really.
But mostly Jesper.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I would love to talk to Kit. I got to send you a video after we finish with this, which I found on his Twitter account back in March that you're going to enjoy. It's not really about the show, it's just really funny.
No, got it. And we love you all, as always. And be good.
Yes, be good.
Bye.
Much love.